What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is a video review of the Nerf Zombie Strike Revoltonator. The Revoltonator is a semi-auto flywheel-powered magazine-fed blaster, very similar to the Strife, but bigger. And it also features some snazzy electronics and lights, like the Star Wars guns. Let's get into the review. Included is the blaster, magazine, darts, and the instructions. External overview of the blaster, starting up at the front. There is an N-Strike barrel attachment lug, so you can put on a barrel extension if you really wanted to. It already has a pretty long barrel, but if you want to achieve sniper status, you totally can. Below the front muzzle is an N-Strike tactical rail for a flashlight or a vertical grip or something. Moving back is the battery tray in this gray piece here. To get to those, you can remove the single Phillips screw and take off the tray cover. And the blaster runs on 4 AA alkaline batteries. That's for the propulsion and the lights and all the silly sounds and all of that stuff. The blaster comes with the alkalines already installed with the blaster, but my testing procedure and my firing demo and my chrono tests were done with fresh alkalines just in case they were dead or low. Up top is the carry handle. This also has an N-Strike tactical rail on the top for an optic or whatever. It's worth noting this is kind of a squishy carry handle. It doesn't feel like regular plastic. It's like a rubberized plastic. So it flexes a lot. And I don't know if that's by design, so it flexes instead of breaks, but it's a little weird. The blaster's super light though, because it is just a plastic toy, so it's not a big deal to carry it with this at all. It flexes, but it's not gonna like bend too much. I don't know why anybody would need to do this with a Nerf gun, but you can. Down to the magazine. This is a standard N-Strike magazine, of course, and included is an 18-round stick mag. This is a unique 18-round stick mag. It has some cool like decorations and stuff to make it look more Zombie Strike, but this is a standard N-Strike mag, so it's compatible with all of your existing magazines. Available only on the left-hand side is an access door. It opens up halfway, which is kind of odd. It's a relatively small access door. I did not have any jams or malfunctions with the blaster, but if you do have jams, it'll be a little tight to clear it out. But again, it didn't jam for me, so hopefully you don't need to use the access door unless you're using really bad darts. Down to these buttons here. Back here is the magazine release. You push that to take out the mag. This is a pretty standard configuration for Nerf now, so if you want to use your right hand, you can use your middle finger, or if you want to reload sort of like an AK guy, you can use your left thumb here as you're taking out the magazine. So that's pretty standard. The lower trigger, of course, is the rev trigger. This is somewhat unique because it revs up the blaster, but it also activates these little lights. So upon holding the rev trigger, one of two things happens. Either this little Iron Man little arc reactor thing starts to spiral, and this little light source will start spinning around, and it slowly speeds up, kind of like your flywheels are starting to get momentum, which I think is pretty unique to flywheel propulsion, which is kind of cool. And that happens back in this little circle thing on the right-hand side and the left side. That's option one. Option two is for these blue lights up here to flicker, and they kind of flicker on sort of like old-fashioned light bulbs in a way, sort of building up, like turning on slowly, sort of like what a flywheel blaster does when you hit the rev trigger. It rotates between spiraling in the back in this little front flicker, so it goes 1, 2, 1, 2 every other shot. Then when you pull the actual trigger to fire, this little light turns on. And it kind of moves, so it sort of looks like a laser beam. It reminds me of the Star Wars blasters by Nerf. That is all the verbal explanation I'm going to give on the electronics. Other than that, you can just kind of see them happen. So that is the rev trigger. To the primary trigger, it feels similar to a Strife trigger. It's semi-automatic, so you have to pull the trigger every time you fire, not like a Stampede or like a Rapid Strike. But it's worth noting, this trigger is pretty sloppy. It doesn't feel refined. Even the Strife trigger, there's some resistance to the factory Strife trigger, but it feels relatively smooth. The Revoltonator trigger does not feel smooth at all. I feel like I'm really shoving the dart through the flywheels. Like it doesn't want to go, but I have to shove it and shoot it anyways. Surprisingly, it didn't cause any clogs or any jams or malfunctions, but it just doesn't feel refined. It doesn't feel that good. And I'm not saying the Strife trigger is fantastic. You have to take all the locks out for the Strife trigger. You have to modify the Strife to make it feel awesome. This feels worse than a factory Strife. So to be clear, that wasn't clear at all. So to be clear, but not being clear, gotcha. But that's it for the trigger. Again, semi-auto. To the grip. Now this is a pretty small grip, but because they tried to make it a thumbhole stock, they made it feel even smaller. I personally don't like thumbhole stocks. I knew when I bought this I wasn't going to like it because I'm an adult. I have a giant hand and it doesn't fit on this blaster very well. Moreover, the length of pull, the distance between the back of the grip and the trigger is also pretty small, and there's a steep ledge right here for your index finger to catch on, so it's pretty clogged and pretty cramped. If you have a super small hand, you should be right at home here, but this is a pretty large blaster, so if you're younger, this is a big thing to hold around. It's long. So cramped, but there's nothing jutting out or sharp or anything like that. Ergonomically, it's pretty small. It's just guided towards younger people for sure. And I get this comment all the time. They're like, Coop, you're old. These guns aren't designed for you. They can be adult friendly while also being comfortable for a kid. This one's just not very adult friendly. But that's it for the grip. Now back to the stock. It's a pretty small stock, but there's nothing else to point out. There's not even a sling mount. There are little areas that you can totally fling a carabiner through if you need to hang a sling, but there's not like a real sling mount. And up here kind of looks like a platform for an LCD screen, sort of like the Nerf Cam or one of those blasters with like an LCD screen, like an ammo counter or something, but it's just plastic. There's nothing there. But that's not a bad thing, because if you're a modder and you want a platform that's perfectly designed for an aftermarket ammo counter, this is kind of perfect for that. But for non-modders, it's just a piece of plastic, and it says Nerf, no zombies, and there's like a connection bar and a battery indicator, but they're false. It's just plastic. And that's it for the stock. No ammo storage or anything else to point out. That is the external overview of the Revoltonator. Let's see it out on the range. Shooting blue Nerf Elite darts. A little faster now to check the motor bog down. This grip is too small for my hand. Cramping up. Now shooting some blue waffle head darts. Operating the Revoltonator is very similar to a Nerf Strife or any semi-auto flywheel-powered blaster because it's pretty much the same drivetrain. So performance and how you can use the blaster is very similar to a Strife or, another semi-auto flywheel-powered blaster. I did not have any jams or malfunctions with the Revoltonator. It was relatively smooth operation. However, the trigger, like I said, is not very smooth. It feels like it's going to clog itself, but I didn't have any clogs, and I shot this blaster 800 or 900 times. So the trigger just feels a little sloppier than it should feel. It feels tight and like you're sort of fighting through obstacles that don't need to be there when you're trying to pull the trigger, if that makes any sense at all. There's just a lot of resistance on the firing arm. To compare the Revoltonator to other blasters, I put it up on my chronograph and I achieved an average velocity of 71 feet per second, which is almost smack on the 70 FPS par that we can expect out of most elite blasters on the market right now. So firing performance is totally normal. It's like almost right on average. That's all of the objective information I can provide on the Zombie Strike Revoltonator, now to my personal opinion. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the Revoltonator. It doesn't do anything wrong, it's just not really my taste, specifically the grip and trigger unit. The grip is just too small, especially with this little fake rebar thing back here. It's a little cramped, and the trigger unit is just sloppy, and there's too much resistance there for my taste. Bear in mind, I am extremely picky when it comes to Nerf guns because I mod, because I know how to make the trigger feel super creamy. When it's not creamy, it kind of feels bad, if you know what I mean. But for a normal Nerfer, I don't think the trigger is going to be that big of a deal. I think I'm a little picky. But I'm a professional reviewer. It is literally my job to complain about every little negative thing so you know what to buy. But I didn't have any jams and malfunctions. The firing performance at 71 FPS is right on par with the Elite blasters. It has a front nozzle and 2 N-Strike Tactical rails, so it's definitely a solid blaster, particularly if you're not one for attachments and you want the blaster to look super cool right out of the box. Like if you buy a Strife, you kind of have to accessorize it. That's the wrong word for it. Kind of an effeminate description. Accessorize. But the shell of the Revoltonator looks super cool. There's like fake little 9-volt batteries, there's little wires. This is made of like fake rebar. It looks like a scrappy blaster that was assembled in a garage after the apocalypse, and that's what they're going for with the Zombie Strike series. You have some 9 volts, some little nails with wire hanging around. These are like little resistors or something off of a micro board. So the shell looks super cool, and you don't have to put any accessories on it to make it look cool. So you can buy this and just have mags, and it looks awesome. So if you're gonna buy a Strife and just put on a long barrel and a short stock, this might be easier for you. But in my opinion, the people that are really gonna dig this are cosplayers because of the lights, because of this transparent plastic that's already built into it with the cool little light show. And as I mentioned back here, this is perfect real estate for an aftermarket LCD screen or something to display your ammo counter, or if you wanted a little television set, I don't know. You can put something back there, and cosplayers are super creative, so they always find something to put back there. So it's a very fun looking blaster. I just don't think it's guided towards performance Nerfers. And let's get real, the lights do look freaking awesome. I mean, the illuminated Nerf logo, that is the coolest thing ever. I wish they did that more often. It'd be super cool to have that without that annoying like noise. Like the noise of the flywheel revving is kind of all I want to hear, but I kind of like that sound. Like right before the light goes green, you go and you rev. You like to hear your engine, you like to hear your motors, not the electronic thing like all of that stuff. So I dig the lights, I just don't like the audio, and like I said, there's no off switch for that, so every time you rev the trigger, you're going to hear that, unless you open it up and disable that speaker, which if you're gonna do that, you might buy a different blaster to start with. So overall, there's no real objective reasons not to buy the Revoltinator. It works well ergonomically, and it doesn't jam or malfunction, so at the end of the day, it does everything Nerf advertises it will do, and as a reviewer, that's good to go. But beyond that, it gets down to personal taste. Is this what you want, or would you rather have a Strife with customizable stock and barrel and all of that stuff? I think a big selling point is the cosmetic appeal of the Revoltinator out of the box, and it doesn't have to have mismatched attachments or anything, and the lights are pretty cool. That's my review and opinion on the Nerf Zombie Strike Revoltinator. If you're interested in purchasing one, I'll put a buy link in the description box below. That's it for this video review. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.